Hello and welcome to the Reading Corner. This video is going to be a bit different for the new season of the Marvel Rivals game, the Hellfire Gala, has dropped, and as part of their event, we've been really unlocking the Cerebro files for basically every couple of days. A new batch of challenges will arrive, and if we unlock enough of them, we get selected rewards from the event, and we get what's called a Cerebro file, which is an extra piece of lore detail. So, this is going to be the collection of Cerebro files from the event, starting with Subject Emma Frost. Everyone knows that my fellow mutants were scattered across time and space by that nasty time stream entanglement. At first, it seemed like finding them and bringing them back home to Krakoa would be nearly impossible. But that's when the Scarlet Witch showed up and made our lives a tiny bit easier, for once. She used her reality-bending abilities to forge a new Cerebro helmet, the classic model designed to locate mutant biosignatures, and added some mystical upgrades so that we could search for our people across multiple dimensions. Initially, she handed it to her dear old dad, Magneto, but after his first overly dramatic call to mutant kind, he realised that such a delicate piece of machinery would be far more useful in the hands of a skilled telepath. Enter yours truly. What Wakanda didn't know is that we already had this Cerebro unit on Krakoa, one devoted to cataloguing genetic profiles and memory data so that fallen mutants could be resurrected. While mutants from every reality are welcomed on Krakoa, this did create an interesting problem. Previously, each mutant from our universe had their personal data stored on our main Cerebro unit. But what happens when a Psylocke from a different timeline shows up in our own? We couldn't risk critical information being overwritten, so I had Forge create partitions in Cerebro's devices to account for alternate versions of each of us. That way, our Logan doesn't accidentally get resurrected with the mind of a wolf that happens to share his name and some of his DNA, as humorous as that might be. Subject: Wolverine. Ain't usually one to share my memories, but I suppose this is just part of being a mutant now, so here we go. I've been off Krakoa for a bit, dealing with some serious business. This megacorp called Alchemax has been keeping Captain America on ice for decades, and the Black Widow finally thawed him out. Problem was, Alchemax wanted Steve back. Bad. So I had to smuggle Cap to the other side of the galaxy. Wasn't easy, but it was the right thing to do. After that, I had something personal to finish. I'd been holding on to the Mirror Master Blade, a cursed sword capable of cutting through just about anything, for too long. I had to deliver it to a sacred place where no one else could get their filthy hands on it. So I headed back to Tokyo to leave it at Budokan. Too bad I was being watched the whole blasted time. Bunch of ninjas jumped me after I stashed the sword. In my downtime, I'd been searching for clues about what happened to my ex, Mariko. Apparently, someone wasn't too happy about that fact. The claws came out, and let's just say it was a good thing those losers were wearing red. Once the rage cleared, I realised I hadn't won the fight alone. The Black Widow was on the scene. I couldn't have been happier to see she survived that mess back at Alchemax. If you live as long as I do, watching countless friends and loved ones disappear into the night, you hold on to the folks you've still got, no matter where or when they come from. Subject: Storm. If I'm being honest, I have never been a fan of Emma's Hellfire Galas. While I am fully aware that fostering solid diplomatic relations can achieve a greater good for mutant kind, I would much rather be soaring on the winds than be trapped in a crowded room full of strangers. That said, this most recent gala did have one guest who made me feel a bit more at ease. The moment he stepped through the Krakoan gateway, his energy washed over me like a fresh rain cascading across the veldt. King T'Challa of Wakanda, the Black Panther, my former beloved. Even though it was instantly clear that this T'Challa was from another reality and was not the same man to whom I had given my heart so many years ago, I could not help but feel an instant connection with him nonetheless. Once the festivities were in full swing, I approached T'Challa. The look in his eyes as he gazed upon me suggested that I was not the only one who felt sparks between us, but neither of us had come to the gala in search of romance. My people had far greater concerns. On their behalf, I implored T'Challa for assistance in investigating the seeming disappearance of Arakko, Krakoa's sister nation on Mars. Without pause, T'Challa assured me that the intergalactic empire of Wakanda would do whatever it took to help locate and restore contact between the mutant colonies. When I asked him how I could ever repay his kindness, the king told me that he merely wished to have the chance to make up for previous regrets. While I had no idea what had occurred in his past, I suddenly was quite curious to discover what might happen on our future. Subject: Namor. When I first travelled across time through the undersea gateway that leads to Krakoa, I found myself greeted on the island's shore by Magneto and his brood. What I hoped would be the beginning of a strategic alliance between our proud nations instead ended in veiled threats and rising tensions. The mutants wished to claim me as one of their people, an act of solidarity on the surface. But in doing so, they also wished to bind me to the laws of Krakoa. The fools. Namor follows no laws but his own. Upon returning to my own era, I initially ignored Magneto's warnings and began to prepare my army for a strike on the surface world. But I soon realised that there were battles far more important than my assault on the air breathers. The damage caused by the time stream entanglement continued to ripple across time and space, crashing like waves into the very foundations of reality. I had no choice but to join this war. But on whose side would Namor fight? The answer came when I was summoned to Krakoa once more, this time by the mutant telepath Emma Frost. She too attempted to entice me into an alliance with the mutants, and she was quite persuasive in our argument. Does that mean she seduced him? I'm not certain if it was her impressive skill as a negotiator or simply her allure as a woman of great power. Yeah, she seduced him. What can I say? Namor has a type. But Emma managed to succeed when Magneto had failed. The night before the night was through, I had vowed to stand with the mutants of Krakoa, and in return, my people would be granted access to Krakoa's greatest secrets. Namor would gladly honour the deal we have struck, until someone gives me reason to do otherwise. So those were the Cerebro files. Little short snippets of lore for the Hellfire Gala event to basically tell you what is happening across this little bit. Obviously, the actual lore segments from the actual characters flesh out a lot of this. I've got a Namor video in the works that's going to give his lore segment, which pretty much expands upon that whole interaction between him and Magneto. So stay tuned to that. But yeah, other than that, thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.